Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place that takes complex sources and, well, boils them down, giving you the context, the insights you need.
Basically helping you understand what's really going on beneath the surface.
And today, we have a very specific mission. We're analyzing a really detailed fan narrative. It's called Exiled.
Right. And our focus today, it's not really about the fan fiction genre itself, it's more about the psychological blueprint that this particular story gives us.
Okay.
We're using this very angst-heavy story. It's set during Hermione Granger's 6th year at Hogwarts, using it as a kind of complex case study, looking at character vulnerability.
So, like, how the narrative builds that
Yeah,
vulnerability.
exactly. We want to see precisely how this fictional world constructs a scenario of just profound isolation, neglect, how it systematically dismantles her self-worth.
It pushes her towards a relationship that, intellectually she knows is just dangerous.
Right. Which brings us to something we absolutely have to mention up front.
Yeah, the content warnings. This source material, it deals with some really serious themes. The text itself is very explicit: rape and non-con, underage sex, definitely toxic relationship dynamics.
It's important context.
Absolutely. So this deep dive, it's really about analyzing the narrative mechanics, the lead up to that dangerous intimacy, specifically within the Dramione pairing, Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy.
We're dissecting the setup, the emotional environment that allows this to happen, the mechanics of her breakdown, essentially.
And the story doesn't ease you in, does it?
Not at all. The author throws us straight into a psychological crisis. The narrative opens, and she's in a state of just absolute devastation.
Yeah, you're immediately inside Hermione's head, and the language it's visceral. It's designed to feel physical, not just, sad. She's described as drowning, feeling this suffocating loneliness. There's that line about an aching, gaping hole where my heart used to be.
Yeah, that's heavy stuff. It's not just teenage drama, like a fallout from an argument. This is deep emotional depletion.
And what's really striking is how that pain immediately kicks off this, self-punishing cycle inside her head.
That's right. She keeps repeating this mantra almost. I should have known better, constantly judging herself, her past actions.
She refers to a past relationship, doesn't she? With an unnamed him, says it was built on lies.
Yes, and crucially, lies she feels she chose to believe, even though she's smart, even though she felt she knew better. It feeds right back into this low self-worth narrative she's building.
So it's not just grief over whatever happened, it's self-loathing.
Given life, almost, the source describes her pain as a living thing inside me, tearing me apart with claws.
It's incredibly dramatic language, sure, but it paints a vivid picture.
It really captures that feeling of being consumed by sadness, doesn't it?
It does. And then there's that moment with the book of Farewell to Arms. She tries to escape into literature, which is so Hermione.
Right, classic Hermione move. But the Hemingway quote that stands out to her is just bleak. If two people love each other, there can be no happy end to it.
Wow. So she's not just depressed. She's actively convinced that connection itself is doomed, that it only leads to ruin.
That seems to be where her head is at, yes. Intellectually, emotionally, she's bracing for betrayal, which makes this next point really important.
The author's notes, the metadata, as you call it.
Exactly. The notes accompanying the chapter explicitly state that Hermione's really harsh internal monologue reflects distorted thinking patterns consistent with depression and emotional neglect.
Okay, so that's the critical lens we need. It tells us, the readers, that her self-perception is unreliable right now.
Precisely. It flags her as an unreliable narrator of her own worth. When she thinks, I should have known better, or calls herself pathetically selfish later on.
That's the depression talking, not objective reality.
Right. It's the effect of the trauma and the neglect twisting how she sees herself and the world. It's not an accurate assessment of her character.
And that understanding is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it explains why she's so vulnerable.
Absolutely. She's basically primed for manipulation, or maybe just finding comfort in really destructive places. Because deep down, she feels like she deserves the pain, or maybe that toxicity is all that's left.
And the source seems to suggest the primary source of that neglect, the thing really driving this state, is the breakdown of her core friendships.
The golden trio, yeah. The narrative does a great job setting this up in the Great Hall scene. It should be a place of comfort, belonging.
But for her, it's just noise. She hears laughter at inside jokes that she's not part of. She feels surrounded by people, yet completely alone.
That feeling of belonging, the text says it's just gone.
And a lot of that distance seems to come from Harry first. He's obviously struggling.
Yeah, the text describes him as hollow-eyed, dark circles, the constant headaches from the Voldemort connection. He's carrying a massive weight.
And when Hermione tries to offer support, tries to be there for him.
He pushes her away, snaps at her. I said, "I'm fine. Stop hovering."
Oof. Hovering. That word just reframes her concern as something irritating.
It's brutal. But here's where that mechanism kicks in. Again, the cognitive dissonance we talked about. Her logical brain immediately jumps in to defend Harry, even though she's hurt.
Right, let's pause on that cognitive dissonance idea. Because it's key. Her head and her heart are basically at war.
Exactly. She knows rationally about Harry's burden, the war, the nightmares, the danger he's in, and she uses that knowledge to judge her own feelings.
Calling herself pathetically selfish, feeling her own pain is insignificant compared to what he's going through.
Yes. Her intellect ends up protecting Harry by downplaying her own emotional needs. It's like a survival mechanism that's turned inward, becomes self-destructive. She's suppressing her own need for support in the name of duty or friendship, and it just isolates her more.
And then there's Ron. The story really plays up the contrast there, doesn't it?
It does, between the warm summer letters, which hinted at something more, maybe romantic interest, and his current behavior.
If he's more, what was the word? Obligatory.
Yeah. Their interactions feel forced, confirming her deepest fear that she's not valued for herself, just for being, well, useful.
God, that's bleak. Just useful.
And Ron's role in this, it's almost worse because it feels like benign neglect. It's not active cruelty, just him being wrapped up in Harry's drama, maybe his own stuff.
Until that moment with Quidditch practice.
Oh, that's just painful to read. He invites her, but only after Harry leaves. And then, when she says no, she has ancient runes.
He looks relieved.
That tiny flicker of relief. It's subtle, but it's devastating confirmation for her. It tells her that her absence actually makes things easier for him.
It leads her to that awful conclusion. It's not that they hate her or want to hurt her.
They're just forgetting I'm here.
Wow. Just invisible.
And that emptiness, that feeling of being utterly forgotten by the people who are supposed to know you best, that's the vacuum the narrative creates.
That's the space where something else or someone else can step in.
Precisely. When your self-esteem is shot, when you're emotionally starving, any kind of attention, any acknowledgement feels huge.
Which brings us to the pivot point. It happens, interestingly, in the one place she still feels competent. Ancient runes.
Yes. The subject, she says, is purely mine. It offers order and logic when her friendships are just chaos. That need for control is really palpable.
But then her control is immediately challenged by the seating chart. She's paired with Daphne Greengrass.
A Slytherin. A pureblood. Described as immaculate, like she's from an etiquette manual. Hermione is genuinely taken aback that Daphne is actually nice.
Pleasant. Friendly, even. Yeah, the question marks say it all. Total surprise.
And that sets the stage for this really key interaction. Pansy Parkinson and Blaza Beanie show up.
And Pansy immediately goes for the slur, mudblood. But then she adds something else.
Insufferable.
Which is chillingly close to Harry's stop hovering.
Exactly. The author connects the dots there. The language of annoyance, whether from an enemy or a supposed friend, it hits the same raw nerve for Hermione right now.
But Daphne does something unexpected.
She doesn't rise to Pansy's bait. Her defense is cool, detached, and based purely on merit, on Hermione's skill.
She says, thanks to Granger, I'll be getting a perfect note. It's recognizing talent.
A Slytherin. A near stranger, offering unsolicited, objective validation of her competence, something she desperately needs and isn't getting from her friends.
Not emotional, it's just respect for skill. Clean, simple.
Which is exactly what resonates when your emotional life is a complete mess, and watching this whole thing unfold.
Draco Malfoy, just leaning against the wall, arms crossed.
Unreadable. That's the description. Pansy sort of drapes herself over him possessively, and he just lets her. He's passive.
But he's watching. He sees this whole exchange. He sees a Slytherin defending Hermione based on talent.
We really need to focus on Malfoy's presence here. He's not the sneering bully of previous years, not in this moment. He's observing. He's seeing the social dynamic shift, seeing Hermione get validation from an unlikely source.
He's witnessing her isolation, maybe, and the power of actual recognition.
It suggests he's observant, maybe observant of social failures, of emotional needs, perhaps even his own. He sees this interaction, this validation that surprises everyone, Hermione included.
And that leads Hermione to ask herself the question that basically unlocks the rest of the narrative.
Yeah. Why does this one small, decent interaction from Daphne, basically a stranger, feel more significant than 6 years of friendship with Harry and Ron?
Ouch. But the answer is,
Because it met a need that was utterly starved. When you are that emotionally depleted, even a tiny crumb of genuine validation feels enormous. It's metabolized instantly.
well, the years of support she used to have, now that it's failing her, just feels like background noise.
Yeah.
Or worse, a source of pain.
Exactly. So let's pull this together. We're tracing the path towards what the source clearly flags as a toxic attachment.
We've established Hermione is in a state of profound emotional starvation. She's desperate, vulnerable.
And this connects directly back to how the source describes Draco Malfoy later on. Hollow-eyed, haunted, nothing like the cruel boy who tormented her.
So the narrative is setting up a parallel, a mutual brokenness.
It seems so. Hermione is starving for connection, desperate to feel something. Draco is presented visually as tormented probably by his family situation, the dark mark, his own impossible choices.
Both isolated, both trapped. One by neglect, the other by, what, dark obligations?
That shared condition seems to be the key. The fact they are both kind of haunted, aware of pain, maybe seeing that in each other, that's what allows the lines to blur.
The space between enemy and something else, as somebody puts it.
And the source is clear. Hermione knows this is dangerous. She knows falling into whatever this is with Malfoy will ruin her.
But the need for any connection that actually sees her, acknowledges her pain, even if it's a dangerous one, it overrides her self-preservation instincts.
It's a really intense exploration of how vulnerability can curdle into something pathological. The neglect from her friends didn't leave physical scars, but it created the psychological fertile ground for this potentially devastating relationship.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on after this deep dive.
Consider this. In stories like this, where the main character is so deeply neglected by the people who should be their support system,
Does the quote-unquote villain, the one who actually sees their pain, even if for complicated reasons become, in a way, more dangerous than the obvious external threats?
because they offer this false sense of healing, a dangerous comfort for a very real internal wound. Think about that connection, that potential comfort found in a shared sense of ruin.
Something to think about. That's all the time we have for this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.